Hello. It dawned on me after making my best of and worst of movies of 2024 that there were some other movies that I wanted to talk about briefly. Everyone already does a top 10 or bottom 10 or worst of the year list, so I thought about what about movies that surprised me or disappointed me? That's why I'm going to make my 5 surprises and disappointments of 2024. Just like my last video, I'm going to alternate between the two. So I'm going to start off with my disappointment and then going to go to my surprise and disappointment surprise. And I'm only going to do 5 of them because to do 10 is a bit of a heavy task. So without further ado, let's begin my biggest surprises and biggest disappointments of 2024. Yorgos Lanthimos has made some of the best films I have ever seen in my entire life. From Dogtooth to Poor Things, he also made The Favorite, which I haven't seen yet, but I've been meaning to, and I feel like he is a very talented filmmaker. However, Kinds of Kindness sort of feels like the worst movie he has ever made, which, given his track record, that is not really saying much. It's not trying to be a crowd-pleasing film, which is fine, but I also don't understand what it's trying to be. It's not a terrible movie per se, and I wouldn't say that you shouldn't watch it. What I would do instead is caution, do not go into this expecting another Poor Things or to expect another Dogtooth. Maybe not even another Favorite. I'd still have to see that movie. Not terrible, but also still disappointing. This was a really surprising year for a lot of faith-based films that came out. You had films like The Forge, which actually vastly improved its previous film, The War Room, based on the way that it focused on character and understanding that community is very important, and having a balanced life was very important. You also had Unsung Hero, which focused on a story that I personally never really was interested in, but it made me interested in and care, and made me have a better understanding of Rebecca St. James's background. But better than both of those films, in my opinion, was The Best Christmas Pageant Ever, which is a wonderful adaptation of a story that focuses on how you can be a good person during the holidays, and how to not judge people based on how they look, or maybe even how they act initially. Because you don't know what their situation is, empathy is very important, especially around the holidays. It's far from a flawless movie by any means, but I still think it's probably a Christmas movie that I wouldn't mind seeing every single year. Now, I enjoy a good true crime documentary as much as the next person, and the subject of what Jennifer did is very fascinating, especially from someone like me who never really followed the case. But the issues I have is that this documentary is not very well developed. There's also some controversy because apparently this documentary used AI images to show Jennifer as having more of a bubbly personality, which, if that's true, it brings the validity of this documentary into question. I'd say just skip this movie altogether and actually read about Jennifer Pan's actual crimes, allegedly. I was very fortunate to be able to catch Regal's mystery movie almost every single week that it came out. One of those films that I was very fortunate to get to see was Sting. I would certainly not call it a great movie, but I certainly had a lot of fun watching this movie. It was funny, dark, gory, something that I would highly recommend to all of my horror fans. It also helped that one of the actors did comment on my video, so that makes me appreciate it a little bit more. On the other hand, a horror film that really disappointed me was Cuckoo. Some of my friends who are also reviewers might put Longlegs at this part of the list, but I actually enjoyed Longlegs, did not really enjoy Cuckoo. The story was boring, the characters were bland, and I had a hard time being invested in any aspect of this movie. Minus the performances by Hunter Schafer and the creature design, there's really not much that I could recommend with this film. I really wished I liked this movie even more than I did. A movie that I'm pondering upon even after all this time. This movie is like if Amazing Bulk actually had something important to say. I do believe that Vera Drew is a genius, and she could be this generation's John Waters. One does not expect to go into a movie that looks like The People's Joker expecting to be emotionally invested in these characters, and yet it works. And I, for one, was really happy I was on this journey. Visual eyesore, maybe, but I would be happy to own a copy of this movie on Blu ray. I hesitate to put Tuesday on this list because I never really had high expectations for this movie, especially when the trailer revealed that the voice of death really does sound like Cookie Monster. Apparently, I ruined the immersion of many people watching this movie because I said that, and now they can't stop hearing that when they watch the trailer or film. I do think Julie Louis-Dreyfus was great in the film, and I do think that the other actress, whose name I can't remember, I'm just going to put her name right here, was also fantastic in the movie. They had great chemistry, and I really wanted to follow them a lot more. However, even a very strong second half, which is what this film had, could not save the sluggishness of the first half. Stuntmen and women do not get the appreciation that they deserve nowadays. Fortunately, there are steps to try to correct this, and one of those steps was making Fall Guy in the first place. An adaptation of a very popular, I think, 80s TV show has a lot of potential, and I felt like it was a lot of fun for what it was. Certainly not a flawless movie, and it does go on for much longer than it needs to, but I was pleasantly surprised with the humor, the action, and just overall feel of this movie. Predictable, sure. Fun, absolutely. You know, Joker Folie à Deux must consider itself very lucky. I saw so many movies this year, and many of them were technically worse than Joker Folie à Deux, but if it wasn't for them, this movie would probably be in my top 3 worst movies of the year list. The first Joker was certainly a very polarizing film, and many people were very upset that it was very similar to a Martin Scorsese film called King of Comedy, which, by the way, doing research, not only has Martin Scorsese seen the first Joker movie, but he says that it is quote-unquote fine. I would love to see a musical version of Joker and Harley's connection. But one, don't make it a jukebox musical, and two, have a lot more personality. Paying homages are fine, but when that's all it is, just homages, then there's nothing that sets it apart. This film could have benefited with having a script supervisor telling Todd Phillips, hey, this is probably a bad idea. Yep, you saw that right. The most surprising film of the year, in my opinion, was in fact a Transformers movie. Specifically, an animated Transformers movie with some, in my opinion, pretty solid animation and environments. And despite it being a box office hit, I do think that it's a movie that not enough people talk about even after the film was released. And don't get me wrong, it's definitely not a flawless movie. None of these movies on this list are flawless. They're not good enough to be in my top 10 or bad enough to be in my bottom 10, but they are still movies that are worth at least talking about for various reasons. Transformers 1 perfectly encapsulates how much effort and humor can go into something to make it actually an enjoyable experience. I'm not even a huge Transformers fan, but I could see myself watching this movie again and again. And those were my 5 biggest surprises and biggest disappointments of 2024. What movie surprised you the most this year? What movie disappointed you the most this year? Definitely comment below, and thank you so much for watching. I might make another list about movies from 2024 soon, because there's a lot more movies I really want to talk about and share, because some people felt like I left out a lot of movies. Bear in mind, I made a top 10 list, not a greatest movies of 2024 list. If I did, it would be like over 50 movies long. Plus, I hadn't seen every single movie that came out in 2024, so it'd be really difficult for me to say objectively, hey, this is a far superior film. But I did enjoy making this list, and it was less strenuous than my top 10 and bottom 10. I had to work really hard trying to think about what movies I haven't talked about yet. But hopefully these are some more movies that you can either check out or skip for now. And thank you all so much for watching this video, and I'll catch you again next time. Take care. going to be perfect to...
Hey there. How are you? How's it going?